William Henderson was raised in a circus. If he wasn't traveling in a caravan to a new place, he was in a colorful tent, performing. William was a practitioner of swordplay, and his partner in the performance was always his brother. The two danced around the center stage, clashing swords, spinning, jumping, and flourishing, sometimes pausing to taunt each other. It was fun, and the two brought much success to the circus. One day, routinely, they both get on stage, wave to the audience, grandly introduce themselves, and begin the duel. A footstep here, a twirl there, a trip and fall, and is that blood? The swords, they were supposed to be props. William stumbled forward, accidentally impaling his brother on the broad, very real blade. The crowd cheers, thinking this is an incredible stunt. Plagued by guilt and traumatized, William flees that night. He swears to start anew and never return to the circus. That was the pitch given to me by a new player about 3 years ago. He had never played the game before, and he was more interested in the hanging out with friends aspect than the D&D aspect. In fact, the challenge at the table was that all 5 players had never played the game before. New to the game, unsure of consequences, unsure of the scope, and nervous to roleplay, they set their characters out into the world. This video isn't just about one specific character. Rather, it's advice. Something I wish I would have done more, especially with new players. Let's continue our story with William. Fast forwarding a little bit, William is on the road with a new party. He's unsure of himself, a little clumsy, but generally well-liked and kind. He wouldn't stand up to make critical decisions or assert himself, but he still communicated and participated with the party. A few towns back, he even went out of his way to purchase an antique sword from a merchant. While adventuring one day, the party comes across the Knights of Aevon, a small guild dedicated to their god of justice named Aevon. Now, the Knights of Aevon were a random encounter, yet they became so important to the party that I even made them into Magic the Gathering cards I gave to my players as gifts at the end of the campaign. But they didn't have to become that important. It was the decision of the party that introduced them more into the plot, namely William. The player that controlled William was fascinated by the Knights of Aevon and the lore behind them, and therefore so was William. Who was Aevon? When was he alive? What did he do to gain godhood? William read books, prayed at altars, and eventually discovered, oh my god, this antique sword that I bought belonged to Zardoc, Aevon's best friend. But it wasn't just the interest that changed in William, it was his behavior. Later, when a demon started attacking a small village, William courageously took charge. He ran into the battlefield shouting, "For Zardoc!" And after it was over, he checked up on the villagers. They saw a steel-clad warrior with incredible confidence and dedication kindly ask if they were harmed. And this is where I made my mistake. Instead of finding a way to point out that evolution to a new player, I continued on, business as usual. When in reality, I could have paused to say something. I should have. With brilliant conviction, William goes over to check on the well-being of the villagers. This is not the William of months ago, but a new man with resolve and dedication to justice. 2 simple sentences like that could go a long way for a new player. And that's my advice. Show them that character arcs don't have to be planned out and can instead happen naturally as the story progresses and their characters learn and grow. And point it out. The reason I play D&D is for that story and progression, to tell a grand tale with the people around me. It's about the journey, and I made a mistake not acknowledging that. In fact, it's almost never the case that anyone knows how a character arc will turn out. Azaki was the wizard of the party and started to teach William magic, which is the whole reason his subclass for fighter was Eldritch Knight. It's the NPCs and party that will make the character arcs count. Years later, the campaign is coming to a close and the party faces the serpent gods, massive snake deities that are prophesied to consume the world and then themselves. The party stood firm and had the gods cornered in a pocket dimension so they would be tricked into consuming themselves early. They could kill the serpent gods. It was possible, but they questioned the effectiveness of it. Sure, the party would eliminate their mortal bodies, but the gods would slumber and just come back. Even if the party was long dead, thousands of years later, these gods could come back and torment future generations. Soro, the enlightened monk, took out an artifact known as the Eye of the Universe. He knew he could end things permanently, as this was the only thing the serpent gods were vulnerable to. He could stay behind and use it at the very last moment. William denied. Forcing Azaki to gate everyone back to safety, William grabs the hand of his friends Madara and Soro and flies them up to the gods. Feeling the full force of the crushing weight of the mile-long snake bodies, William holds. Soro presses the eye deep into the flesh of the gods. There's a flash of light. They know it's almost over. Reflecting on the past years of this campaign, I rectify my mistake. I express to my player the journey his character has been through. I stand in front of my players and say this. As William passes away, he opens his eyes and feels warm. Above him stand figures he's only heard about in legends. The gods Kellen and Eavon, and Zardoz. They reach down to him and say, "Welcome, William." The once traumatized, nervous circus runaway has boldly earned his place amongst the gods.